You just can't get to it without an AI solution. You can't get to it trying to analyze that one-off manually each time. You have to be able to do that at scale if you want to go sift through billions of interactions.
Talk to me about what you do at Southwest and your job there.
Yeah, so I lead up until a couple months ago. For the past 8 years, I've been leading up our digital experience group and then department at Southwest. So that's composed of a product management group. So think of folks who, if you're in the app, folks who are responsible for the booking experience, the seat experience, the account experience, the ancillary products, all of those good things. So we have a great group of what we call folks at Southwest cohorts that bring it all together. They work with our engineering firms and bring those to life. We have an awesome team of digital researchers and designers that make up our research and design team. They're taking a look at things like what we would see in quantum metric, session replays. They use platforms to do studies with panels of customers, looking at stimuli that we're planning to build, looking at things that we have built, getting feedback, taking in all of those elements and designing really beautiful experiences for those surfaces. Then we have a team that's responsible for what we would call digital merchandising. So all those offers that you would see inside the app, what's relevant to you, what's not relevant to you, making sure we find the right mix of things. And then a test and learn function that's responsible for A/B testing, multivariate testing, continuing to make sure all those experiences are improving. Absolutely big users of quantum tools as well. And when we run tests, we're going back and looking at the sessions, especially if we're seeing something that's off, what might be driving the reason why it's off, and how we can improve things. And then we have a digital enablement function as well that's responsible for things like quantum, like bringing on new capabilities and new platforms, and then making sure that they get adopted broadly within the digital team and other functions within Southwest. But I just shifted actually with the rise of things that we've all been talking about recently with agentic commerce and AI agents that folks now have in their pockets, and 1 billion downloads of the ChatGPT app as an example, 650 million of Gemini. I just took on a new role leading up our agentic commerce and growth activation function. So building out the strategy for that, and then building out capabilities to make sure we're in the right space that customers want us to be.
Awesome. I definitely want to talk about AI, future, present, what I call it like present plus, right? This sort of like thing that's just on the horizon. But before I get to that, I want to talk about this like digital experience a bit. I mean, you might think of yourself as one big team, right? But also underneath it, you have a bunch of sub-teams. You've got designers that are interested in certain things. You've got product managers, engineers. All these teams are tracking different metrics and different data. Do you guys have like one big sort of uber or mega metric that you're tracking when it comes to customer experience, or is every team sort of optimizing to their own?
Well, it's a really big store and a really big experience. So ultimately, we want to make sure that we have products that customers want and that they want to keep flying us and that they enjoy. So we definitely look at a primary metric would be trip net promoter score. So what do people think about when they fly with us? And then we can dive into components of that. What's the brand net promoter score? So where do we compare and stack rank against our competitive group? And then increasingly outside of our competitive group as well. How do we look in terms of other hospitality providers? And then you dive in a little deeper. So look at, do they like the product? Do they like the brand? Do they love Southwest? Are we keeping them flying with Southwest? And then you look at other metrics, that are more financially driven, conversion rates, revenue per visit rates, ancillary revenue. How much are we generating in terms of folks using the loyalty program, which helps them want to keep flying Southwest? And that helps us make sure that all that factors together. We keep customers happy, we keep our employees happy, we keep our customers happy, then we can keep our shareholders happy. And it all flows down to make really good things happen at the end of the day.
So you've got all this infrastructure, you've got all this data architecture in order for teams to get access to that data, understand what's moving, those metrics. But do you feel like there's some of those are just too hard to get? They're maybe harder to get than they ought to be? Like, is there one in particular that you feel like is just too hard to get and should be easier?
Absolutely. So unique thing about the airline industry, We fly roughly 500,000 customers a day on a busy day, sometimes 600,000 or so, fly over to 120 destinations. And then when you start to factor that all in together, those folks are flying to, roughly across 14,000 market pairs. And then each of them have their own experience that matters. So we might look at a metric like conversion overall within the overall digital experience, or look at it at the app level or at the web level, and then look at segments. Those are pretty easy to get to. But why an individual customer chose not to buy can be actually really hard to get to. Like looking down at that individual reason, why is someone not buying between Dallas to Tulsa? Is it a price point problem? Did we just not price the product at the right level? Is there a perception problem of the brand in that area? Did that customer have a bad experience before that we need to go change? Like that's what matters to that individual. And getting down to that level of data, when you think about it, that, we have billions of people that come into the store each year. That's the data that you actually need to be able to make the change that matters to help that customer want to buy for us the next time. And that's where you really get to the personalized experience, which is, okay, then what do I need to do across all those various components to make sure that you want to come in and buy the product with us next time? But that is absolutely very difficult to get down to, so that then you can activate those personalized experiences. And you need really good partners that can pick apart those needles in the haystack and then surface up the insight, or ideally activate on your behalf in those moments. Like, let's put you in to a campaign to try to make sure that you don't churn from us, or let's make sure that we recognize you better next time if you had a bad experience last time.
And sometimes you don't have that data, right? Sometimes it's hard to get to maybe what we would call an understanding of why a customer didn't buy. Like sometimes it might be something that occurs that's completely outside of your purview.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing that happened in the app. There's nothing that went wrong with that experience. Everything that you have tells you that the price is right and all that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, they decided not to purchase with you, or maybe just not purchase with you that particular time. But there are those cases where you do have the data, right? You have the information that's there. But as you point out, there are millions of these interactions going on. I'm sorry for putting words in your mouth, but is this a place where you see AI sort of helping out? Like, is this going to be a game changer for you?
Absolutely. We have that opportunity if we have partners and tools that can provide that from an agentic perspective. You just can't get to it without an AI solution. You can't get to it trying to analyze that one-off manually each time. You have to be able to do that at scale if you want to go sift through billions of interactions. Otherwise, people are only able to do what they're able to do within 8 hours of the day. But if you want to get to that level of individualized experiences, you absolutely have to have AI capabilities to make that come to life.
I think AI is going to be, and agentic in particular, is going to be really helpful at digging down and finding those needles in the haystack, right? That's going to be one use case of it. The other thing that's really interesting to me, and just myself as a marketer, I'm really interested in this idea, is a shortcut to understanding. Right? I can do that with AI, and I can say, great, I need to understand the customer experience broadly, but I don't necessarily want to dive into all the details that I might have to get if I were looking at a whole bunch of different dashboards and doing a whole bunch of different drill downs. So do you see a role for that kind of solution at Southwest? Like, how is that going to help you?
Oh, I mean, the litany of questions that we could ask that we don't just have the time in the day to answer. I mean, it goes on forever. I mean, we're constantly having to say, what's the priority of answering that question? Because it all just comes down to people power at the end of the day. And if you can use agentic tools to be able to to answer those types of questions, democratize the data and democratize the insight, that is incredibly powerful. And some of the early prototypes that we've been doing ourselves in that area are incredibly promising. I think taking it to the next level too is also a big opportunity, which is not only can you find the answer, but can you take action on that answer, and can you activate immediately off of that? So if I could find the reason why that person didn't want to buy with us in and from Dallas to Tulsa, can I go immediately change the experience for them and do it agentically, which take action immediately off of that and change the marketing prospect for them when they come into the store. Partners that can help build those types of capabilities where we can not only identify the problem and the reason for the problem with AI, but also help us activate upon that problem. That's game changing.
Do you think, is the activation, it sounds like you're getting at personalization, right? So like somebody has a negative experience. We understand what the reason is that that person had a negative experience, why they didn't end up buying from us. Maybe if it wasn't particularly negative, just why they didn't buy from us. So we're going to offer them a personalized experience that's going to increase the probability of that person buying from us. Is it that, or is it something else?
I think absolutely that. I think that's the base use case that we can be thinking about. I think the other part is actually fixing some of the problems and the friction that's within
like
the store.
Site-wide or app-wide.
Yeah, like why is someone getting a bug in that situation? Why do they fall out? And I hate when people have errors inside the store. And I get a report, out of the measurement tool that we have for qualitative feedback, and right next to it is a link to the session, and I can tap that link and I can go see what the person said, and it looks for certain types of words. You can imagine what those words are probably like, to see people who are truly frustrated inside the store. And a lot of them are just bugs, just issues that, things that just are just not high enough on the list for us to be able to fix that problem at that time. But if we can do that for that customer, and imagine the thousands of people that are behind that customer that didn't reach out, it didn't trigger an alert for us. So it absolutely, I would love to change, the offer that they see, and we should do that. But I'd also just like to make sure that the store is as friction-free as possible and is as delightful as possible. And I think the way to do that, you either add more people or, and it's always hard to do that with budgets. That's very difficult. If you can solve that challenge for me, I would love that too. Fantastic if you can do that with AI. But increasingly using additional tools like agentic development, agentic design, and research, I think are huge opportunities for us.
Yeah, I think there's something that's really comforting about pulling up the same dashboard that you see every single day in, day out, right? And you know where the data comes from, and you know what's going to look off, and you know what you do when some number doesn't look right in that dashboard. And I'm guilty as anybody of talking about like the death of the dashboard and stuff like that, like it's going away. That will obviously take some time. But what do you think technology companies and technologists can do in order to help facilitate that change a little better? Like what can companies do as partners that are trying to drive adoption do to make that adoption go better? Yeah, we've
been talking about that a lot recently. And I think it's really observing how people, like literally watching how people are using some of these new tools and across a wide gamut of learning types, because people are adopting them in such different ways. And then for the folks where it's not catching, like figuring out why that's not catching for them, and then helping equip them, because it may be, hey, you've never been allowed to think strategically in your role before. And now you can generate the insight, but you also can convert that into a strategy. And share with people like that is a different skill set, and there's learning that you probably have to now go take to be able to change your working style. I think the other part is that I've been observing is that because you can now run analysis with some of these AI tools so quickly, that you're also multitasking now at a much higher clip, because you're actually putting in a query, letting it churn for a bit, and at the same time, you might be running another query on another topic, which means you're in this high level of multi-threading at work, where you're really managing a team of agents at that point, and that's a very different skill set. For someone who has been classically trained to do really great analysis, the management of the analysis is a very different place to play.
You're now all of a sudden like a quasi people manager.
You really are, yeah. And then the third bit is then making sure you understand how to set up the AI in a way that if you're planning to democratize it, because the big power is that you can give more people access to that, right? So like your example, you could go ask that agent those questions that, you would have wanted to lock that person up in that room for, which is why you weren't doing that before, which is nice of you. And you didn't get an HR violation. But what you could then do, and you need to then help people understand, is setting up to make sure that that's really accurate and that the answers that it provides, one, are not not a hallucination, which is still an issue. And there's ways to prevent that and to double check that, but also that people understand that the data that comes out of it has a lot of context behind it. Because if you just get a report that says, hey, air booking conversion is down by 2% or 5%, that could really worry someone, right? But if you're like, hey, there was a reason why that was, and here's the reasons behind that. Here's the context of what you need to know, because hey, we ran a sale the week before, and so there is a different type of customer that came in the store at that time. That time frame. You have to train those agents to provide that extra level of context. Otherwise, the data it can be democratized, but it can have a side effect of causing a lot of wrong interpretations.
Right. So, it's like we're moving from a state where we want everybody to have access to all the data to like we want everybody to have access to the understanding that data might surface. But at the same time, you still need to have some amount of data literacy. You need to have some understanding of what an agent or whatever the case might be telling you, just as you used to have to with dashboards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You used to have to understand what was underlying a dashboard. And now you might not have to know how to build one, but you still need to know what the data or the agent is telling you when you get that answer back.
Absolutely. Or you need to, that maybe plus and as you're building out and setting up those initial agents and the documentation that powers them and the rules, you're making sure that you're providing that context up front. So it spits it out as well, which is, hey, this is what this exact metric means.
Right.
Yeah. Like
this is what that metric means to our business.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
this is how we calculate that business.
Yeah.
Right. Just as if you brought a new employee in from a competitor or a different industry or something like that.
Totally.
This is how we look at it.
Yeah.
Right? This is our secret sauce.
Good example for us is we track air conversion rate, which is we look at it when you've come into the store. Sorry about that. We track air conversion rate when you come into the store and engage and express travel intent, when a lot of other retailers actually just say any visit into the store, whether it's for product support or whether for buying intent, that's the first interaction. We go a step forward.
You're starting further down the funnel in order to figure out what's my denominator.
Yeah, people are like, we'll bring new people in, they're like, oh my God, your conversion rate is amazing. Yeah, I'm like, well, it's just sort of
in
how
the
we count it.
context, it's a little bit different, but you got to have that context, right? You got to have that understanding.
Absolutely.
So all this AI stuff, right? The future, the promise of all this AI stuff is that things are going to be done much, much faster. We're going to get answers much, much faster. We're going to get insights much, much faster. We're going to fix bugs much, much faster. What's something that you think is still worth the human effort and time to slow down and do right?
Oh, great question. I would say at Southwest, we find one of the most meaningful experiences that we provide is that look in the eye, that smile, that joke, that caring moment that Southwest flight attendants and Southwest cohorts are so well known for. Like that is the one, you can have a really bad flight, be delayed, but if the awesome person that was there in front of you from Southwest made it a livable moment or a delightful moment or a hospitable moment, that changes the entire calculus of how people would respond to that situation. Like your NPS score goes up dramatically if you've had a positive interaction with an awesome Southwest cohort. So those are the moments that I think are amazing. You just can't automate that away. I do think the upside too is that we can take those moments and we have a backlog of things that we want to add into the app. We call them digital hospitality, but we would want to do a lot more than that and bring much more of that Southwest heart into the experience that we just can't do because there's just not enough time in the day and not enough people. And we need to focus on the bug fixes and we need to focus on the new capabilities that we're offering so that you can go travel more places in the world on Southwest. But we would love to get to that. And I hope that promise is fulfilled, that it allows us to move so much faster, so that we can do those things that have always been on the backlog that we just can't realize with the amount of folks that we have today. Thanks for checking that. Yeah. How's the rest of it? Is the mug looking good? Okay.